Hello, life-changing friends. Today as you can see, I'm going to talk about a book which is not a spiritual thing at all. It's about how to get a better body. And I chose this one because I have a lot of faith in science, in sport, and I'm up to date in sports science, and I wanted to find a book which would help me set up a weight training schedule that would be like the maximally efficient one. So I wouldn't have to spend hours in the gym, and I would have safe progress. And you might look at me and think I don't really look like your average gym bunny. But actually, the evidence is that over the age of 40, not bodybuilding, but weight training and high intensity interval training is still the best thing for maintaining mobility, strength, flexibility, all that stuff as you get older. And so that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a manual or some kind of general direction that was as evidence-based as possible and as least labor intensive as possible. Laughing at myself here. But that would have a proven effect. So this one looked great. I mean, look at what it's called. I've lost the thing. It's called Body by Science, a research-based program, tick, for strength training, bodybuilding, and complete fitness, tick, in 12 minutes a week. Really? And it's written by someone with an MD at the end of their name, Doug McGuff, MD, John Little. And so perfect, I thought. I'll read that one. And I was so excited for the first couple of chapters. I was like, I'm ruining the ending by saying it in this way, but the first couple of chapters, they are punchy. They are written with great confidence, lots of research from somebody who definitely knows their stuff when it comes to physiology of the human body. And they were saying all sorts of things that I completely agree with, like it's no good being super fit if you injure yourself. It's no good just doing what everybody's always done in the gym, just because. It's well worth reassessing it in the light of new information. This is science. What else? There's no physiological difference in building muscle between men and women. I like that, because they're the same thing, muscles, respective of what gender you might be. And yeah, so I was thinking, wow, I'm so glad I bought this book. Fantastic. And then what I'm going to tell you what the routine is for 12 minutes. But in a minute, I will, I promise. But I want to just say right now that I then had a really good look at the research that they were quoting. And I've got to say, so in medical statistics, in research on human beings, there is such a wide variation between in different individuals' responses to particular behavior, particular exercise, that in order to get a really clear idea of what helps and what injures you and what doesn't really help, you really have to do the thing on lots and lots of people. Because if you don't, then, one Olympic athlete will skew the results enormously, right? So, and that's particularly important for someone like me, who is not the kind of person who is likely to be taking part in an experiment of this kind, right? So they're almost always going to be either students in their 20s, probably male, or what do they call them? Senior athletes, right? So people who spend an awful lot of time running marathons into their 70s. Okay, so I'm not either of those things. So it's particularly important for someone like me, and I suspect somebody like you, that the data is statistically valid for everyone. And the best way of doing that would be to have an enormously wide range of people doing it. But in the real world, that might be quite hard. But the second best is to have enough people so that one extreme outlier doesn't significantly skew the results. And most of those studies that were quoted so authoritatively in the first two chapters were on 20 people or less, right? So I'm thinking, can you, and also they didn't talk about injury, like they're talking about the effectiveness on general fitness. They're not talking about injury. I mean, there are some really interesting things in there, and if you're interested in like what the future of human physiology or human sports science might come up with, then there are a good couple of chapters to start with and then explore, because there are some really, like I said, there are some really interesting new ideas in there. And actually, I've just got to say, when I say new ideas, this book wasn't published that recently. I'll put it on the title, because I can't actually see what the publishing date was. This reservation does not include high intensity interval training, which is much more established. Okay, but there are lots of things in here, like you don't actually have to do more than one set of stuff. That the second and third sets or fourth sets make no difference to the outcome, which really, and that it's safe. Okay, so there's this idea that it's safe to push your body to the point it would get to if you were in a life-threatening situation, right? So there's a lot in here about the different kinds of muscle fiber, which I, despite being really experienced in reading medical stuff, I had to read it twice to kind of understand. So, and I'm assuming I have actually understood, but um, it's very technical, right? It's very, very highly technical. The different muscle fibers, how they work, how long they take to recover, and what that means about how your exercise regime should go, in order to make sure that you're exercising all of them. And there are certain muscle fibers apparently which only come on board when they're only switched on, as it were, when you're really at the edge of desperate. The kind of ones where, you know, you've got your granny holding up a car to save her baby, grandkid, kind of thing. Or yeah, to save your life or the life of your baby. And I wasn't clear after reading this why this is a necessary part of an exercise regime, right? But it is the whole point, I think, the whole purpose of doing the exercises in the way that they suggest is so that you trigger those ones. I mean, you trigger all of them, not just the everyday and the next lot, but you get to those ones. And in theory, I can see why you might want to. In practice, I didn't see any evidence. They didn't quote any evidence that that had more than a handful of people involved, that it really makes a significant difference to your overall fitness, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. So, however, some of the evidence that was quoted was quite amazing and interesting, that that doing weight training actually addresses one of the biggest problems in Western societies at the moment, which is something called metabolic syndrome, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes. And once you've got those three things, then you're on the downhill slope, right? So if there's anything that can stop that happening, or that can even reverse it a little bit, you know, then that's really important for the health of everybody, the health of the population as a whole. So and some of the evidence in here sort of points to the possibility that this could be a help in that direction. Okay, so I promised I would get to the thing. I promised I would get to the actual regime, and I'm going to say it in my own way, right? So there are say 4 or 5 exercises which are whole body exercises, which are hard. You know, they're set at the level in which you can only do a few in like one. You can only do 1 or 2 minutes of doing these exercises with excellent form, very slowly. So it takes 10 seconds for you to do the whole thing, to, you know, pull your whole body up on a bar and then let yourself down again, which is slower than most people do it, right? So you can also, and then you move immediately onto the next one, and the next exercise, say, I can't even remember the names of these things, a leg press or whatever, and then immediately onto the next one, and deadlift, and then immediately onto the next one. But each exercise that you do, you have to do it to absolute failure. And then when I say absolute failure, what they say is, with beginners, you get to the point where you see the panic in their eyes, and then you tell them to do another one, right? and they are so you do that 4 or 5 times over in a row, so your body has no time to rest. It has, so your muscle fibers have no time to recover, even the very fast recovering ones. So that you have to recruit all the muscles. And okay, and I've got to say, yeah, I'm not sure I want to give that a go. Maybe I will do it one day. But I do think it's, if the whole premise of the book is that this is the safe way of doing this, it doesn't sound very safe to me. But anyway, maybe I'll do it with a partner. And anyway, and that's it. That's your exercise for the week, or even the 10 days. And they're very clear that you have to not do any more for the whole time it takes for the long recovery fibers to recover, and that is a week to 10 days. For a young person, might be even longer for me. Okay, so you I think it's chapter 3 is the chapter that tells you everything you need to know in practical terms, and then the rest of the book is encouraging you to actually take the recovery period, instead of thinking that more is inevitably better, which is, like every mature personal trainer will tell you the same, right? And that I like the idea that they have, that it's a yin yang thing, it's a balance thing, that your body requires catabolism and anabolism, and so that means building up and breaking down, and you have to have both in order to change, to create healthy change. And in terms of weight training exercise, that means doing the weights and then letting your muscles adapt. Doing the weights, letting your muscles adapt. And they're very clear that, as I said, that doing the weights can take a lot less time than is standard in weight training regimes, and letting your body adapt takes a lot longer. A lot, like, the standard thing is that it's 2 days, but in the opinion of these people, these guys who wrote the book, it's 7 to 10 days, possibly even longer. And that does actually coincide very nicely with my own personal experience, that twice a week Yeah, it's the kind of optimal strength improvement that can happen from one set, one exercise, one day of exercise, takes longer. So if you do it again too soon, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. You're actually interfering with your body's ability to get stronger, which of course we don't want to do. So, and okay, so there's that chapter, and then there's the last chapters are anecdotal, right? So I'm sure you know what that means, but in for a book which is setting itself up as being about the science, literally in the title, Body by Science, you want the data to be good, solid, statistically valid, reliable data, which has been discovered in a way that excludes confounders, that can't be misinterpreted as meaning something it isn't and doesn't, and all that stuff. And what anecdotal evidence is exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. In scientific terms, it's saying, well, my uncle, he smoked till he was 90 and he was fine. He was run over by a bus on the way to the squash court, right? So that's anecdotal, which is not considered scientific data, for very good reasons. That we remember the outliers, and it's just not statistically valid. So you can't extrapolate to the whole population. So if that's true, I can't then scientifically validly say, well, I can smoke and I will live to 90 and still be playing squash. You just can't. I made that up, by the way. So yes, so all the chapters after maybe not all, but most of the chapters after the stuff, the actual regime, is anecdotal. And so I'm going to say that I was pretty disappointed about that, because actually what I was looking for, which is what any scientist would look for, is an experiment, right? A trial of this regime against your standard gym regime, with enough people in it on both sides to demonstrate that there's a difference in outcome, right? That one's safer than the other, that one is more effective than the other. And there wasn't one. There isn't, that evidence is not there, right? So that's why I'm going to say that what this book appears to be to me is a kind of hope. It's a hope that that the small amounts of evidence that there is, and the potential that this kind of way of doing weight training has to maybe improve not just your physical strength, but your physiological efficiency. It's an exciting potential, but that's all, right? It is not proven. So what I would say is, I'm going to give it a go. I am going to give it a go. Not right now because I have a frozen shoulder and that would be foolish. But when it's better, it sounds quite interesting and exciting. And, you know, although it's a bit daunting to work through your panic, and yeah, there's another thing they say, which is whatever you do, don't do the Valsalva maneuver. So when your weights get heavier, the tendency is, and your body gets weaker, the tendency is to use your stomach muscles to help you. So you kind of see people in the gym going, and you're not supposed to do that for various reasons. Your blood pressure goes up, which isn't great, but also that it reduces the actual exercise. It reduces the intensity of the exercise, which is the opposite of the point, right? So you're supposed to go instead. So that would be interesting. And I'm going to look really strange in the gym. We're doing it, but let's give it a go. Hey. So I'm quickly going to go to my scorecard, my patent scorecard, which I will put at the end as a kind of summary. So woo-woo-ometer 0 out of 10. There is no woo-woo in here. The profundity. So there's nothing. There's no kind of layers below layers here. There's no onion skin. It's just straight stuff on the physical level. And I just want to differentiate between it and the status quo weight training manuals. And so I'm going to, instead of saying puddle, I'm going to call it a duck pond level kind of profundity. Lineage, right, so the lineage. So I think I've explained why I don't think the lineage is entirely rational. What's the word? Oh, it's not entirely science, despite what the title is and everything, and the MD on the cover. It's not entirely science, because what it is it's that, as I said, it's about somebody's looked at the research, which is quite early. It's very, very early research. They looked at the research, and this was written in 2009, so it's quite old research. They've looked at the research and they've thought, ooh, wouldn't it be great if this was true? And they have extrapolated from that early research, early ideas. They have created a whole structure, a model. They've created a model, a hypothesis about how things work, how these things work. And they have dreamed up possible connections between how these things work, how human bodies of a certain type respond in real life. A few human bodies respond in human life. What they know about biochemistry, and then they've kind of, yeah. So they've imagined what that might mean, and then they've created an exercise regime that would take advantage of that model. Okay, but I'm just saying, this is, it's very exciting. It's very well read, right? It's very well read. It's very highly educated, and that doesn't mean it's true, right? But if it is true, then this is actually what it says it is, which is the most efficient way to take advantage of the way our bodies actually work, in order to increase our fitness and possibly our health in the longer run, and reduce, well, it talks about reducing risk of harm, but at that one, that's a little bit shaky. So it's talking about how to use resistance machines properly, and the idea that the less exercise, the less weight training you actually do, the safer it's going to be, which are both useful safety things, but I think it's a bit strong to say, therefore we're the safest way of doing it, Okay, so I'm talking about lineage, and I hope you will understand that the lineage, I think, is not science, because if it was science, there would be a comparative experiment, as I said before, between the way it's normally done and the way this is done, to demonstrate statistically validly whether it's better. But there isn't one. So it's not really science. Science based, science inspired, perhaps, is the best phrase. But it is very, very much about efficiency. It's about setting aside any other considerations. What is the most efficient way? If this is true, then what is the most efficient way of taking advantage of the way our bodies really are? And to me, that means the lineage is Henry Ford. Okay. Readability. So the chapter on I'm going to do that again. The chapter on the actual sets and how to do them, and is beautifully written. It is succinct, it is clear, it is unambiguous. There's no guff, right? Lovely. And the readability of that chapter is, I would give it 10 out of 10, right? I would give it, it's practically Dr. Seuss. I mean, it's not fun exactly, but it's really easy, and really easy, straightforward read, easy to understand, blah blah. The rest of it, the science, is, especially the chapters on muscle fibers and biochemistry, are really, really hard. As I said, I had to read the biochemistry one more than once, even though I have a biochemistry undergraduate degree and medical degree. So you may want to skip it, but I mean, you would lose something of the flavour of this book by skipping it. But that is the reason why I have put, under readability, I've put British Medical Journal. Right? It's very technical indeed. Life-changing index. Yeah, that, I think, if it works, this could be pretty life-changing. If it works as it's intended to work, as it's expected it would work, as the guys who wrote it, obviously it worked for them in that way, and for some of their clients. But I still don't know if it actually works at the end of the book. I don't know if it would work for me. So if it works, yeah, that would be amazing. to be able to exercise for only 12 minutes every week or two. Wow. But is it going to be doable by everyone? And I've got to say, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a very particular kind of person who's going to want to go through the panic barrier every time they go to the gym. I think that's going to be a very unusual person, don't you? So total gym addicts looking for a new challenge, who are pretty courageous, I'd say. Okay, and so finally, shelve, donate or bin. I am actually going to shelve this until my shoulder's better, and then I'm going to give it a go. And maybe I'll come back and tell you how that works, but it might be a few months. So shelve, not bin. Yeah. So that's it. So next time I'm going to be talking about again a different kind of category of book. So I have seen all over the internet at the moment is a book called It's Not You, which is about narcissistic relationships, and it's aimed at the victims. And it's by a lady who I've seen videos before of her talking about narcissism. So she is a bit of an expert on that particular subject. And I am quite interested to see what she says. I think there is some confusion and some divisiveness about some people's opinions on narcissism, and I want to see, what the hype's about. So if you want to read with me, that's the one I'm going for next time. But in the meantime, happy reading.